Hey guys, welcome to Dungeons & Dragons Homebrew Builds, a series on my channel where I construct Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition classes based on characters from your favorite anime, comics, TV shows, and video games. Today I'll be revising a class I actually already featured on the channel, Vanguard of Humanity, a class constructed to represent the badass Shark Boy warrior from the Record of Ragnarok manga series, lmao. So with intros out of the way, let's talk shop. We'll be using the same roadmap for discussing the class as the previous installment of the series. Hit point information, proficiencies, and then class features, the meat and potatoes. Also something to keep in mind, since most of the classes I will be constructing for this series will be representative of a singular and specific character from a work of fiction, subclasses will not always be featured for classes. As a matter of fact, you'll probably find it more common for classes that I build to not have subclasses, but that's why I try to include a lot of fun and unique class features that make the class strong and represent the character as best as possible. Not to say that there will never be any subclasses in any of the classes I construct, just that it won't be a wholly common occurrence. That said, our hit die for Vanguard of Humanity will be a D10. I tried to make him pretty beefy, being a frontline warrior borderline berserker type, but I didn't want to make him too chonky for the sake of balance, so sharing a hit die with the fighter class seemed accurate for the character and balanced. Seeing as lmao wears about as much armor as a successful female Twitch streamer wears clothes, he doesn't have any armor proficiencies, but don't worry, I've got the whole armor situation covered early on with class features. As for weapon proficiencies, it should come as no surprise to fans of the series that his sole weapon proficiency is with halberds. If this did come as a surprise to you, you probably haven't watched or read Record of Ragnarok, which I would highly recommend you do. I say that because all lmao basically ever does is wave his pokey stick around until everything is dead or he is. No tool proficiencies. That's another thing I deadass cannot be bothered to include unless a tool proficiency is obvious and pivotal to representing a character. If you want to include a tool proficiency, feel free to tweak the class with Dungeon Master's permission. Now your saving throw proficiencies are strength and constitution, since the two things you're best at are being strong and not knowing when to quit. Choose 2 skills from a list of animal handling for your relationship with red hair, athletics, cause strong, intimidation, because lmao is a razor mouth, perception to spot those Alaskan bullworms, and survival in case you don't. With the nitty-gritty hammered out, it's time for the fun part, and more importantly, it's time to see whether or not I can make a class worth shit, because looking back on the original class constructions, that shit was a disaster. We start off with class features Strongest Man Alive and the Flying General. For the Strongest Man Alive, at first level, whatever stands in your way will simply be annihilated. You can roll a 1d8 in place of your normal damage roll for unarmed strikes. lmao is strong enough to kill a brown bear with his bare hands. Bare hands? Anyway, a d8 is a good enough damage die for this, since a brown bear only has 11 hit points, meaning you could kill a brown bear bare-handed probably about as easily as he did. For the Flying General, your natural might as the strongest warrior in Asia precedes you. While you are not wearing any armor, your armor class equals 10 plus your strength modifier plus your constitution modifier. This feature is the one I was talking about before when I mentioned the lack of proficiency with an armor type. No need for armor if you're better off without it, just feed your strength and con ability scores, 2 scores you'll need anyway to be a good warrior. Coming in at 2nd level, we gain access to battlefield experience. Having fought through thousands of battlefields and having defeated thousands of enemies, your reflexes and defensive ability have surpassed mortal capabilities. You can block a melee attack targeting you as a reaction, halving the damage. This reaction can be made on your turn and cannot be used to halve the damage of a critical hit. A pretty simple feature, lmao often blocks attacks, but I didn't want a block reaction to just act as an AC boost because it felt like making the feature a lazy shield-esque reaction. To make it a little more unique and a bit more balanced and realistic, seeing as you would still take half damage instead of an AC boost negating the damage, and it's more realistic since even through a block, the impact force would somewhat permeate. As for why you can take this reaction on your own turn, well, lmao attacks Thor reacts to the attack with a counter, and lmao blocks the counter, which would be a reaction to a reaction. At 3rd level, we get equal matchup. You can declare to the DM that you will target a creature for a melee attack at the start of a round before any turns have taken place. If that creature targets you for a melee attack on that same round, you can choose to evenly clash the attack, reducing the damage of both attacks to 0. This cannot be used to reduce the damage of a critical hit to 0, only reducing the damage by the amount of damage you would have done. This feature was particularly hard to make since D&D is a turn-based game, but Record of Ragnarok has more fluid combat in which two people can take an action, at the same time, which results in the clashes sprinkled throughout the Lubu-Thor fight pretty often. All in all, I think I did a good job of not just making it some generic reaction thing, since it was less of a reaction to Thor's attack and more like they took the attack action on each other at the same time. 4th level sees us taking our first ability score improvement. Go for Strength to boost your AC and damage, or Constitution to boost your AC or health, depending on if you want to play as a DPS or as a tank. Maybe consider Charisma since Lubu is a pretty scary dude that commands an extremely loyal army. Changong, I'm looking at you. 5th level gives us You're Pretty Good. Not even the power of the gods can harm you. You can evenly clash melee attacks as a reaction. A pretty objective upgrade to the block action we get earlier, and I made this feature in case any of you wanted a generic reaction thing. At 6th level, Counter-Offensive allows you to, after evenly clashing a melee attack, use the attack action as part of the same action. Lubu is able to clash Thor's attack and attack him back to back, hitting him with the most damaging attack he lands, which is unfortunate seeing as Thor seems more or less unfazed. At 7th level, you're going to get Found You. You find the most joy in combat when facing a foe of equivalent or greater power. If you score a critical hit and choose to reduce the damage of the critical hit to 0 by evenly clashing with a creature's melee attack, all creatures within 400 feet must make a Dexterity Acrobatics check of DC 8 plus the combined total of the damage reduced to 0 by the even clash. Creatures within range will be knocked prone by the quakes generated by the clash if they fail the check. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't feel super hot about this one. I don't think it's bad, it's just that I wanted to include the fact that Lubu and Thor's clashes were shaking the massive arena, but I didn't know how to really incorporate it. I think the feature is okay, and it has its uses, but I'm not sold that it's as badass as what you're seeing right now. Next ability score improvement at 8th level can be put towards more muscle or heft, maybe some spooky face. Capping strength and constitution is your biggest concern. We're going to be increasing our action economy at 9th level with Essence of Ragnarok. You have been granted the power to fight the gods and the speed to pressure them with said power. You can use a bonus action to attack with a weapon that you're holding. You can add your ability modifier to the damage of the bonus attack unless that modifier is negative. Lubu was able to quickly nick Thor's shoulder after an attack, so the nature of the light quick attack after like a full-on attack just kind of fits the bonus action attack to me. We get to become Limbo Masters at 10th level with Elusive Warrior as we duck under Mjolnirs coming to cleave us in half. Even a point-blank throw of the mighty Mjolnir can't so much as scathe you. You can use a dodge action as a reaction. This is your best answer for ranged attacks because while you've got stuff to stop or have melee damage, you've got no reactions to help you with ranged attacks. Now you do. Impose disadvantage on attacks and you get to keep your action to attack on your turn. Well, you know the saying, Mjolnirs that go out must come back, and with Sidestep, you'll be prepared for that. Your reflexes and warrior senses will allow you to forevermore remain vigilant against attacks that most would be unaware of. Creatures cannot gain the benefits of being an unseen attacker when attacking you, and you gain advantage on all dexterity saving throws. So we get good dodging at 10th level, and we get even better at avoiding death at 11th level. No big hammer getting the drop on me. We're at 12th level at this point, so when actually playing this character, you should start considering endgame stats and rounding off ability scores that won't be making it to 20. Also consider feats like Mounted Combatant, but with you being the best warrior to ever mount the legendary red hair. Regardless, just keep in mind that most official campaigns either don't run much farther than this in terms of level, or just straight up don't run with 12th level PCs in mind. Stopped is the next feature gained at 13th level. You can negate attacks that would even bury the World Serpent, but at what cost? You can evenly clash or block critical hits and reduce the damage of the attack to 0 or half the damage of the attack respectively. But when you do so, you sustain a lingering injury. Roll on the lingering injury chart to find out what injury you sustain. So we can finally neg crits, the blind spot in our even clashes and blocks, but the trade-off for both manga accuracy's sake and balance sake is that you neg the damage, but you get a debilitating boo-boo. Hope you've got a horse wheelchair like all the cool kids do nowadays. At 14th level, even the gravest, most debilitating injuries cannot stop the battle. You gain proficiency with Constitution saving throws. If you already have proficiency in this saving throw, double the proficiency. This class feature, Resilient Form, allows you to do things like stand up with broken legs. How convenient! With Far From Finished at 15th level, your sheer power of will can always be relied on to propel you back to your feet. Once per long rest, you can negate the effects of all lingering injuries until the end of a combat encounter. If you aren't in a combat encounter, this class feature cannot be used. This man backflipped onto a horse and just fought like nothing happened. Not only is that basically what happened in the manga, but this will come to be extremely useful since it allows you to fight unimpeded by all those fucking life-ending crippling injuries you'll be racking up like a kid in a candy shop from clashing critical hits. You're just not allowed to do it outside of the fight because you wouldn't reasonably have the drive or adrenaline to will your way past being a paraplegic. This is the second to last ability score, so if you've made it this far into your campaign or campaigns, you need to choose now to round off ability scores or grab up those last feats. Finally, we get to have our own beautiful horsey boy at 17th level, where we get 1000 li in one day. Your mount is the greatest mount and partner a warrior could ever ask for. While you are mounted and aren't incapacitated, your mount gains the following benefits. Your mount cannot gain levels of exhaustion through means of fatigue. Your mount's base movement speed is 105 feet. Okay, for the record, I demand some props. 105 feet in 6 seconds being the time length of a round, is almost exactly how fast a creature would need to travel to cover 1000 li in one day. I had to convert that shit and do all that mental math and shit, and I gotta be honest, I definitely didn't expect it to come out to something so reasonable. Also, of course, a li is a little less than a mile, so red hair would be covering about 300 miles in a day, and without, like, fucking dying of exhaustion, so that's where the fatigue-based exhaustion immunity comes from. If you run about a 10-minute mile, you can't even cover half of what red hair does in a day, and that's not accounting for slowing down due to fatigue. We start coming to a close on our Vanguard of Humanity class by giving our Lu Bu their ultimate technique, in the form of a class feature, Sky Eater. At 18th level, you can combine your superhuman strength and grip with the centrifugal force of the swing of your melee attack to birth your ultimate technique. By gripping the polearm between your clenched knuckles at the very haft and swinging it fully extended, you produce a swing that can split the clouds for miles and miles. Once per long rest, you can use the Sky Eater attack as an attack action while wielding a halberd. Using Sky Eater increases the amount of damage die of the attack by +2, and can hit a creature in a line up to 4 miles long and a mile high. So, once per long rest, your halberd is doing about 3d10 damage to basically any one creature you can see. Seems like a fitting ultimate technique. Last ability score, so if you have any feats that will mesh well with what you want your PC to be by the end of their journey to 20th level, or if you want to round off any last ability scores, now is the time. And finally, for our capstone, we get 2 class features, Final Clash and Warrior's Spirit. Made sure both of them had that nice final battle ring to them. With Final Clash, you realize that a warrior's greatest strength isn't his power, but rather his determination and desire for a glorious battle and honorable death. Once per long rest, if you drop to 0 hit points or die outright, you drop to 1 hit point instead. This, of course, is representative of the final clash between Thor's Gerod Thor's Hammer and Lu Bu's Sky Eater, where Lu Bu eats shit but grabs his fucking torn off arm and tries to keep fighting in the face of certain death like he's on that Doomslayer type shit. Last but not least, this Mad Lad class gets Warrior's Spirit. Like a true warrior, you will always charge forward and fight until the battle is over, never even stopping to catch your breath. You gain the following benefits. You cannot gain levels of exhaustion by means of fatigue. On your turn, you can take 1 additional action on top of your regular action and a possible bonus action. You can use this feature twice before a rest, but only once on the same turn. On your turn, you can use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your Vanguard of Humanity level. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. So, to celebrate Lu Bu's monumental Herculean feat of surviving for over 16 minutes in a competitive one-on-one combat with one of the physically strongest gods in existence, this capstone class feature basically grants you Red Hair's stamina exhaustion immunity, as well as a 20th level action surge and second wind. With these 3 abilities, you'd be able to keep the fight going against even the mightiest of foes. Unless you get your entire fucking head smashed into viscera and gore with your brains and face mixed together on the concrete like a sunny-side-up egg by a god. Yeah. Until then, you're good to go, dog. Well, that's going to do it for this class. Again, no subclass options, but hopefully this martial class I've constructed to represent Lu Bu is strong enough, balanced enough, and representative of the source material enough to satisfy you guys. At the very least, I think this hits different compared to the original Vanguard of Humanity, but I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. If you enjoyed this video or the class, go ahead and leave a like on the video. It helps to support the channel, and your support is greatly appreciated. Comment down below if you liked the class or not, and what you did or did not like about it. Some constructive criticism would be great if you feel like sharing. Also, let me know what you guys want to see. I have plans to redo Thor as well as the couple of Grappler Baki classes I made, and I'll even make a separate video covering Lu Bu's Volan, Skypiercer, and Thor's Divine Weapon Mjolnir as homebrew weapons, but if you guys want to see a class made for a character from a certain series, drop it in the comment section down below and I'll see what I can do. Hit that notification bell to be updated on Dungeons & Dragons homebrew build videos when they drop. Subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content or any of the other content on the channel, such as Grappler Baki, Fate, JoJo's Bleach, or Kengan content. With winter break steadily approaching, I'll be ramping up uploads for a couple of weeks, and I'm hoping to hit, say, 500 subscribers by my anniversary next year, so help me reach that goal and I'll keep being a dumbass that says funny shit about your favorite stuff. I've been Chris Rocha, the new face of YouTube in the making, and this has been Dungeons & Dragons Homebrew Builds. Thanks for watching. Peace.